As Indigenous professors of language revitalization and reclamation, we use First Nations scholar Joanne Archibald's story work to explore genealogies of mentorship as enduring relationships to reshape the Indigenous Professoriate and sustain language work.
We ourselves represent genealogies of mentorship.
I was mentored on my own academic journey by scholars affiliated with the American Indian Language Development Institute at the University of Arizona.
In turn, Sheila was one of my mentors throughout doctoral studies and beyond. Chokma, Sohochifuat Keri Chu, Chakasha Saya. I earned my doctorate from the University of Arizona on the homelands of the Tohono O'odham and Pasquayaqui peoples, where Sheila was my faculty mentor.
Nu Sheila Nicholas yan pahan matsiwa ni kyang da hopi sing na ovi ne patsahon man yan hopi matsiwa de kalwangwa put no songo pangaksino. Carrie was my first Indigenous student mentee from admission to graduation, 2012 to 2016. Our mentor-mentee relationship is the embodiment of a carved-out space for Indigenous ways of knowing, being, and doing work from within the academy, propelled by aspirations to benefit our communities. Fundamentally, as Indigenous scholars, we pursue our work from a strong sense of our indigeneity, cultivated and nurtured in the pursuit of our academic aspirations.
Our approach to the storytelling is dialogic and relational. We are inspired by Archibald's conceptualization of Indigenous story work, and we have drawn on this approach over the years to story our language revitalization and reclamation work.
We understand the work of mentorship as coming from the heart. As such, we consider a distinction between being a mentor, where one is fully engaged in mentoring from a heart level as a core identity, and doing mentoring, where one engages in a momentary or temporary action that would be defined as an act of mentoring.
Through our mentorship relationship, we have cultivated the processes of coming home to our true selves, nurtured the development of distinct Indigenous academic identities within the academy, and continue to support and sustain these anchored conceptualizations of our authentic selves beyond the ivory tower. We begin the story of our faculty mentor doctoral mentee relationship with the memory of my graduation from my doctoral program and Sheila's gift of a shawl. This act of indigenization exemplifies moving beyond survivance to thrivance, the ability to flourish and deepen scholarship and thoughtways in the service of Indigenous communities, their ancestors, and for generations yet to come.
The act further exemplified what it means to act unapologetically with cultural integrity as Indigenous scholars.
This picture is my graduation day. After the speeches concluded, it was time for the students to cross the stage and receive their degrees. I lined up among the doctoral degree recipients and waited until my name was called. It was then that you walked out to me, met me at the center of the stage, and wrapped me in a cream-colored shawl with blue and brown accents and teal fringe.
This takes me back to that precious event, your graduating, and the celebration, publicly recognizing, honoring, and sending you off to carry on the work through the Academy's tradition of hooding. In the Hopi belief, you were a kele, a fledgling hawk, who had advanced to maturity and was ready to pave your own path. Now, I was sending you off with all of the following: pride, appreciation, gratitude, encouragement, love, respect, and a strong belief that you would do good things and contribute much. All of these heartfelt thoughts, feelings, and spirit are embedded symbolically in the shawl, tapalo itself. And in the process of enfolding you in the shawl, usitoina, in the moment, with pride, a cultural practice I had witnessed on numerous occasions. At the core, it is a heartfelt expression of a relationship established over time. In our case, it was a growing relationship. You're seeking guidance and support, and my observation of your receiving, accepting, and acting on it. I now understand how maturity and authentic seeking of support and accepting guidance manifests. It is fulfilling. I wonder what reaction and impression we made. I don't recall any one of my colleagues asking me about the shawl prior to the hooding, nor after. It was our private celebration. This is what I cherish. The backstory is that I searched to purchase the shawl over several months. What I had in mind was nowhere to be found. Finally, a colleague contacted me about her intentions to make a shawl. She invited me to her house to show me the material. It was the one. It showed itself to me. So the shawl was also specially made for you, not just bought off a rack. I couldn't have been happier at how it worked out.
This memory is so special to me, and I will never forget what you said later, that you didn't ask for permission from the university for the ceremony. You just did it. I've held this moment close to my heart because of the important teachings it offers. We as Indigenous scholars don't need to ask permission from the university to act with integrity. In telling the story of the shawl and our mentor relationship, we privilege an Indigenous gift paradigm based in values of care, cooperation, and bonding, and notions of kinship. When I chose to pursue my doctorate, my priority was finding a mentor who would support me on my personal path. I chose the language reading and culture program at the University of Arizona because I wanted to work with you, a Hopi woman doing the type of research that I wanted to do. I remember coming into the program in an established community of practice. You were assigned as my advisor, and you informed me that Dr. Perry Gilmore and Dr. Lacey Wyman would also be on my committee. I felt taken care of because I didn't even have to ask any of you to be on my committee. You all just came around me. As a committee, which later came to include Dr. Ophelia Zepeda, you all offered me so much.
We share a common passion for and commitment to attending to our ancestral languages. Our academic journeys have been entwined with strengthening our own linguistic and cultural identities, hence offers prospects for reclamation of indigeneity through language in institutional spaces. Thus, we recognize such institutional spaces as significant, if not essential, to our aspirations to contribute to community survival, renewal, and continuity through language reclamation, revitalization efforts as an emerging field within Indigenous education. Moreover, Carrie's search for mentors to encourage, support, and guide her academic aspirations also brought attention to the potential that she brought into our scholarly community. Potential to cultivate, nurture, and protect, as well as to harness the richness of her distinct cultural identity as assets for inspiration and hope. Through the mentor relationship, I came to characterize my relationship with mentees as a godmothering relationship. This affirms that mentorship is a kinship responsibility that is about the relationship, and it has no ties except respect and caring. Because mentorship is a reciprocal relationship in which both parties invest in the relationship to teach and learn from each other, it's hard to see where mentorship begins, and it can be never ending. In my own ensuing transition from graduate student to a tenure-line faculty, there was no open position at the University of Arizona. I learned later my own mentors, Teresa McCarty, Perry Gilmore, and Ophelia Zepeda, along with Norma Gonzalez, have worked together to create a target hire position to keep me at the University of Arizona, premised in my work in Indigenous language revitalization. Through a network of kinship relationships, Indigenous and allied scholars who engage in community making and sustaining at the university in turn strengthen our aspirations as community engaged scholars and advancing capacity building. Established scholar mentors working with, supporting, and promoting Indigenous students in such scholarly spaces, such as Language Reading and Culture and the American Indian Language Development Institute, demonstrate the potential for cultivating and establishing a pathway from graduate school to career. Working from and within a sense of kinship and being in good relation to each other, we are able to draw on our aspirational capital, to hold on to hope in the face of structured inequality, and to acquire skills and credentials through formal education in a way that enables us to serve our tribal communities.
As I became part of this academic genealogy, I benefited from the mentorship that Sheila had received.
The institution imposes conventions on faculty and students in higher education. One example is required doctoral exams, including the discourse around these conventions.
At the beginning of my program, I took my qualifying exam, which one of my other committee members referred to as the last friendly exam of the PhD program. The next exam, the comprehensive exam, was at the end of my coursework. The exam never felt unfriendly, but it was certainly more rigorous. Prior to the exam, we met and you gifted me a root. You told me how to use it as medicine for protection as I went through the exam. This moment was important to me because it made the exam feel less of an institutionally mandated event and more like a rite of passage on my journey as a rising Indigenous scholar. The process became ceremony.
Academic discourse and conventions have been and remain confounding to me. I recall my own comprehensive exam as extremely intimidating. To have my assumed understanding of the body of literature or knowledge that would inform and or substantiate my community's need of language vitalization was largely from an external Western knowledge base. The Indigenous scholarship was barely emerging. I struggled to argue or speak coherently on the body of knowledge. This was a profoundly humbling experience. This humbling experience continues to play a significant role in my mentorship. The root, or hongapi, as it is called by the Hopi, is one that I keep on hand as a form of protection, as my mother explained it, protection of our intellectual, emotional, physical, and spiritual energy, as a shield from and against hurtful energies that surround us. If one believes, one stands empowered in mind, body, heart, and spirit.
As a doctoral student, I felt compelled at particular moments of transition in my program, such as the comprehensive exam, to give gifts to my mentors who guided me. A practice that I began while doing research in my community as a master's student was to gift my beadwork to those I worked with as a natural gesture of reciprocity for the gifts of time and sharing knowledge and experience. When I beaded, I thought about each person and the good work they were doing for our languages, so that they would also have a piece of my heart entrusted to them. Because I understood the mentorship I received as a gift, I wanted to reciprocate by offering my own gift from the heart.
Our interactions around mandatory exams for doctoral students reflect ways we navigated institutional conventions from a strong belief in one another, manifest in advocacy and protection. The doctoral exam process reflects the dominant epistemological position of the university and exposes conflicting cultural values in the production of knowledge for Indigenous doctoral students. The discourse of comprehensive exam is not holistic. It separates life and work experience from the intellectual and dismisses the situated knowledge of Indigenous students. In addition, to couple it with the term exam positions the learner against abstract standardization, whose knowledge is valued and is considered as comprehensive. Similar tensions surround the dissertation defense. What are we defending and against whom? Through our Indigenous mentor-mentee relationship, we claimed the space around this required doctoral exam and reframed it within our cultural contexts. Key to this claiming of space was the gift of a root, a protective medicine, a remedy.
I remind myself that my integrity as a Chakasha woman and scholar is my strength, and it is not bound to any academic institution. While the path forward is always difficult, it is less so because of those who have come before. I'm thankful to you for your mentorship. The graduation ceremony was a culmination of a mentorship relationship focused on arriving at the graduation stage, and a beginning of a collegial relationship characterized by ongoing guidance and support.
In a reciprocal fashion, this mentorship opportunity has led us to a critical consciousness about the evolution of a mentorship paradigm that resurfaces and privileges the logic of the gift paradigm and is informed by an Indigenous epistem. Most importantly, I borrow from Cochiti Pueblo scholar Michelle Suina to articulate this experience as coming to know, utilizing myself as a starting point of change that makes the most sense on my journey in continuing to establish a scholarly community that welcomes and anticipates the role of cultivating and nurturing the potential of each and every student who comes into higher education. This has been the medicine.
Yakoke Hachimeni Li.
Askwali Bayek Bulu.